So this is your host Steve from the back, uh, coming at you again, and so I don't do this like often at all. And honestly, one of the reasons why I don't do this is because too many people on YouTube do this. Too many people on YouTube review their opinion on movies or whatever. Or they break down something on a movie, they break down the fight scene. They break down the special effects or something, or they break things down in a certain way, and then they give their opinion on it or whatever. That's been kind of like done to death. But sometimes it just so happens that sometimes they make a movie to where you do see something in a movie that is kind of absurd. And I'm not saying that it wasn't cool, or I'm not saying it wasn't like entertaining. I'm not even going to say that it wasn't creative of the creators of this movie and the choreographers to even do this, because it was very creative. And most people understand the concept of what they call plot armor in a movie. I'll give you a quick example of plot armor if you don't know what plot armor is. Plot armor is kind of like, let's say in a movie you have an overpowered, hulking monster fighting just a regular sized man. And you know that this monster is physically strong. And you know that if this monster gets a hold of this man in any way, shape, or fashion, that he literally could squeeze this man and start breaking this man's limbs, right? It's not rocket science. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, duh, you know what I mean? Plot armor is, and they do this in Hollywood over and over, plot armor is, instead of the monster getting a hold of this person and literally either tearing and ripping ligaments, joints, and limbs apart fast, or squeezing them, and twisting, and jerking, and compressing, and basically snapping this person up like a gorilla. What they do is the person that is fighting this monster, the monster will like throw them across the room. You know what I mean? So it's like, why would you push your prey or your victim or your opponent or whoever you have in a vulnerable position, knowing that you could completely annihilate them because you're just that strong? Like, if a person was actually that strong, that's plot armor. It's like common sense tells you, yes, the monster would not throw its prey further away from its body over and over. Like every time it gets close to the person, instead of grabbing the person, it throws them into a wall, or it picks them up and hurls them. It's almost like it just seems sadistic. It's like, well, just kill the person already. Just stop tossing them around, because but that's plot armor. So we all know how that goes. Inevitably, the character in the movie will find some way to trick that monster or whatever it is into a way where it somehow has outsmarted it and it kills it. Whether that's like the last time it approached the person had a blade or something and it stabbed the monster in the neck or whatever. The monster impaled itself on the person's spear, or so on and so forth. And we all know this is Hollywood bullshit. That's the word I call it. It's Hollywood bullshit because nothing in reality works like that. Ever. It just doesn't work like that, And that's what plot armor is. Plot armor protects characters from not dying or certain things not happening that clearly would easily happen, right? So in this Prey movie, which is funny because I'll give the movie credit. The movie seems like a good movie as far as entertainment. It seems cool. It seems like it's cool to watch. The special effects was good. The design of the Predator was good. Everything looks good. The costumes look good. the way that the characters and actors and actresses are like conveying their emotion. No, I can't find anything wrong with it. It's just general Hollywood type of shit. It's Hollywood. It's clearly a Hollywood movie. Okay, there are no doubts about that. The way that these people fight in this movie is bullshit. It's Hollywood bullshit. It's not realistic in any way, shape, or form. I would actually say, and I'm not trying to say this in a negative way, I'm just saying, me being a martial artist, critiquing this is just explaining to you how bullshit actually this choreography and fighting is. Because it's a movie. It's not going to be real. There's reasons why they fight like this in movies. One of the main reasons is so the choreographers can and the camera can pick up the movements a certain way. Another reason is because it just looks entertaining to people. It actually is very telegraphed. It's very flashy. Those are the main two things. It's extremely flashy and telegraphed and unrealistic. The timing of it is unrealistic. It doesn't really make sense. From a combative or practical standpoint, me watching it doesn't make any sense, honestly. The Predator, you would call someone like that a unskilled, heavy-handed brawler, actually. Like, he's literally a heavy-handed, exaggerated, wild, swinging, straight-up just brawler. Like, there's no skill in this creature. This creature is just extremely strong, and it's like slow. Actually, he's strong and fast, but at the same time, he has a delayed slowness about his sight, his ability, the way that he positions himself is very clumsy almost if you really pay attention to it. But that is Hollywood. That is how monsters are depicted in Hollywood. That is Hollywood fighting. That is Hollywood. Okay, it's not realistic. It's not realistic by any means. There's nothing realistic about it. And what I have to say about this final scene where the Predator, of all things, this is what makes me laugh. Now, I'm not bashing this movie because I will say it again. This movie is a good movie. It's a good action movie. It's a good sci-fi movie. There's nothing wrong with it. But as far as, like I'm saying again, as far as realism and real martial arts and real fighting, especially with an armed weapon, with actual bladed weapons, it's straight horseshit like every other Hollywood movie is. The thing that made me laugh so much was that they literally had the Predator accidentally cut off his own arm. Beat by accident, he cut off his own arm because he's against a tree. His arm is stuck. I believe it's his right arm. His right arm is stuck in a tree by his own weapon. So he can't. And honestly, I'll say this is another plot armor thing. If you're strong enough to stab a weapon like that through a tree, clean through like that, because you're some hyper, mutinized monster, alien, whatever the hell you are, you should be able to pull it out just as easy. And if you can't pull it out just as easy, because by virtue that you're so much stronger than a human, you could at least still pull it out even though it is embedded. You're not going to get stuck, if you will. That's plot armor. That's another plot armor aspect. It's like, why would you... That's like me stabbing a person, or stabbing a piece of wood, and getting it stuck in there, right? Now, if it goes super deep in the first place, if it's getting stuck in there that deeply, then that means I'm that strong to embed it that deep, okay? So I should be able, even if I have to put my foot on the damn thing and pull it out, I should be able to pull it out, right? I should. But, like I said, plot armor, again, with the Predator is always, plot armor to the max for this girl that he's fighting. I'm not knocking her either. I'm just saying this is what we call plot armor, and it's actually hilarious watching it. It made me laugh. Like, it was cool. Don't get me wrong, it was cool. Like, it looked very cool. Like, it's like, oh yeah, that's cool. I get it. But it's total bullshit. Like, and then so he has this shield in his left hand, he has the pokey thing, the two spiny, whatever you want to call them, the two pokey impaling things that he has on his right arm. And then he has the shield that expands, and the shield that is like somehow razor sharp and cuts through things like it's butter somehow. When she delivers a thrust, she's holding the spear with two hands, which makes sense, but, you know. She's holding his spear, which is actually his, I believe, with two hands. She's really putting the most of the thrust at him with her, I believe it's her right, with her right, and basically just steadying it with the left. But the crazy thing about this is, see, this is what I mean about plot armor. This is what I mean about real fighting versus Hollywood bullshit. Now, the Predator is so strong that, first off, he does not have to move out of the way or let a blow glance off of his shield and try to deliver a blow. He can take the entire brunt of whatever you're throwing at him, and he can be as static and as straight and as stiff and stay in one spot as he wants with that shield, especially her being so tiny. The literal vibration that would come back in through that weapon into her hands from him holding a shield would be rocking. It would be rattling for a human being, especially a small little woman like herself, for any person, but for her to even be smaller than the average person. This is what I mean about the bullshit in the plot armor. So the Predator, he moves with the blow, like you should, obviously, if you're holding a shield or another weapon or something, you should move with it. But the thing is, it doesn't make sense when you're fucking pinned to something and you have no space to move. So that's why, like, he cut his own arm off, you know? But the thing is, why would he do it? You know, it's like you would think he would have enough sense to realize, okay, she's trying to stab me with a spear. Let me actually move into it with this shield, and at the same time smash her with the shield, probably breaking and shattering the shaft of the spear and pushing it right back on her and into her with the whole weight of his left side, knocking her probably to the ground. But instead, you know, he goes with it, cuts off his own fucking arm, cuts his own arm off, and then starts swiping at her with his left hand with the goddamn shield. Like, you see what I mean about how it really makes no sense. It's like, it makes no sense, you know what I mean? Like, you're watching this, like, I'm pretty sure someone who even has no training, who doesn't know how to use weapons, has no type of training at all, would probably still realize that is complete horseshit. It's like, really? Okay, really, bro? That's how that played out? You really just... But I will give it to... I have to give it to these people. That was very creative for them to ever even think of that. To think like, oh, well, how can we make this Predator get subdued by this little woman? Like, how would we... And that's interesting. You know what I mean? It's actually, all around, I'll say it was a pretty... From what I've seen, it seems like a pretty good Predator movie. Okay. There's many Predator movies. I agree that Predator 2 was probably the best one, still to this day. I believe that's probably still the best one, in my opinion, out of all of them. You know, hands down, if I were to just factor in everything in a movie, like the plot, whatever the setting, music, special effects, blah, 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 you know, just the way that it was made, with what they're working with when it was made, I would say overall, I would give it the best rating out of all of them. But I just had to, I feel like it was the most funny thing I've ever seen, but it also was the most clever, interesting thing I've seen in a movie. Like, they really, that's the plot armor. That was the plot armor point. That was the scene. That was a plot armor scene where it's like, okay, really, that's how she survived. And you also have to realize that in Predator 2, the Predator actually did cut his hand off. Well, no, did he cut his... No. Oh, I think it was Danny Glover cut off his hand because the Predator was... Which makes much more sense than the crap with the girl. The Predator was dangling, and he was having trouble holding on, trying to pull himself up. Hanging off of a ledge, which also kind of doesn't make sense because, you know how agile and strong and able the Predator is to pull his own weight, because he can, climb trees and do all that other shit, and somehow at that moment he couldn't pull his big ass up off of a fucking ledge, which just really makes no sense. But, you know, it makes more sense than the tree shit. Because I'm thinking, well, he was fatigued, he was shot, okay, I get it. It makes a little bit more sense. You know, so Danny Glover used the Predator's own glaive or disc or whatever that weapon is called that he has, to cut off his arm, causing him to fall and have to claw and try to cling on for dear life on the side of a building to stay alive. And he ended up falling and grabbing a pipe, which ripped off the building, of course, with the massive weight of the goddamn Predator and the strength and everything, and crashed into another building. You know, to which the Predator had to repair himself and cauterize the wound of his own cut-off hand in a damn bathroom in an apartment building. So, you know, it's funny how the plot armor of these movies works and the fighting is garbage. I'm sorry, I just have to say, it's like, the fighting's garbage already. It's garbage. Tactically, all this shit is garbage. It doesn't make any sense by any means. Tactically, practically, it doesn't make no sense at all. But the funny thing is that it is entertaining, and oddly enough, when I was watching clips from the movie Prey, it reminded me for some reason of The Winter Soldier. If anyone's watched The Winter Soldier with Marvel, and you see how the Winter Soldier fights with his little arm and his little knife and his little metal arm and all that, looking like the guy from Dark Sector or some shit. It has that vibe to it, like that type of weird rhythm, that like over exaggerated Hollywood rhythm where it's like, you know, it almost looks like a dance, like the way they're fighting. It's just not realistic by any means. It's so much emotional content too that they're putting into these movements. Like it is exaggerated and telegraphed, but also they really try to put emotional content into these characters' movements. You know what I mean? Like regardless of who it is or what it is. And yeah, it's like some shit you see in like Marvel, or especially the Winter Soldier. And the Winter Soldier himself as a character, those exaggerated, angsty type of movements. You know, like you know, where it's like he's trying to convey emotion, but it's bullshit. No one fights like that. In reality, it doesn't work like that, man. That's not how shit works. That's not how any weapons work. Anyway, a spear does not work like that. You know, no one uses a shield like that. Matter of fact, their shields don't work like that because shields are not mechanized anyway. And no one has a big shield like that in a little ass space. And if it's like that, works like that, no one puts it anywhere close to their body, ever. No one brings a shield like that. That is bladed somehow all around the edges. And puts it near their own fucking arm. It just doesn't make any sense, guys. But it was interesting. But I had to speak on that because I'll tell you, I've seen shit in Hollywood, and that was some of the craziest Hollywood shit I've seen in a long time. I just have to say it. It was kind of like the stupidest shit I ever seen, but the most clever and interesting and most entertaining shit I've ever seen yet in a Predator movie. I have to say, well, in almost any damn movie that I've ever seen, any fight scene, I've never seen no bullshit, crazy, fake shit like that. But also the most clever shit you could ever imagine. That was incredibly clever. They thought, let's make him cut his own fucking arm off. Like, not that his arm was in a trap or something, which is more realistic. Like his arm is caught in some type of trap or something. And because he's pressed for time, and in his head he's thinking, okay, am I going to get shot to death, blown up, stabbed to death, whatever. So for me to get loose and cover some ground and get out of the vicinity of this whole thing, or where most of this conflict is coming from, I'm going to have to hack off my own arm because I do not have time for anything else, right? That would make more sense. But no, this is what Hollywood. He fucking cut his own arm off in a fight with a little girl, basically. You know what I mean? Like basically, a little girl made him because he wanted to let a blow slide off or let it glance off his shield. He cut his own arm off by mistake. By mistake. In seconds, Okay, Predator. But I had to speak on that, man. I spoke on my opinion of the Woman King in one video not too long ago, that movie. And I'll just have to say it again. That's another movie where I was looking at from the trailer the way they were making these people fight or whatever. I'm like, this is some bullshit. Like, just like, I'll give you an example. Before she delivered that thrust with that spear, this girl in the Predator movie, she spun the fucking spear around like she thought she was, I don't know, what the, like a fucking Star Wars character. Like she thought she was Darth Maul or some shit. And that was some straight bullshit. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. Like, why are you twirling? Like, I could see if maybe, because I'll give it to the people like this. I don't know if there were two different type of blades on each side of that spear, or if it was the same double-sided, like there's a spear on each end, so it doesn't matter, or if there's one, let's say there's one, because it would make more sense if there's one head on the spear, so you have to turn it, if it was in your hand the other way, you have to turn it around to deliver a real thrust with the actual head of the spear. But this is what I mean. Hollywood likes to make people do weird, spinny, flippy, dippy things and do fancy shit and spin shit around when they don't need to instead of just delivering fast thrusts just as fast as you can. It's all that bullshit. It's all that Star Wars fucking twirling your sword around and shit, twirling your spear around, twirling whatever, twirling your body, twirling everything around in the most exaggerated way. So it looks flashy and fancy. So, sliding under between people's legs and cutting their tendons and shit. Like, who the fuck? Like, what is this? You know what I mean? But that's Hollywood, and I'll say again, I'm not bashing this in a sense of bashing a movie, because I'm not bashing this. This is a good movie. It's just Hollywood never really had realistic fighting in it, and it just really never does. And honestly, it actually would actually look kind of stupid in some movies if the fighting was realistic and fights would end too fast. Most of the time, if weapons were employed, it would be incredibly boring and fast. It would be just like, what is this bullshit? Plot armor has to exist, but I have nothing wrong to say about this movie as far as like a movie, as far as just straight up entertainment, fantasy, sci-fi. It was a good movie. I'm not gonna say it wasn't a good movie, but that's the end of the rant. I rarely do rants like this about movies, but I thought this movie was worthy to rant about because of the nature of it and because of that shit. That stunt that they pulled at the last scene or whatever, with him cutting off his own arm. I laughed my ass off when I saw that. I was like, God damn. But it actually doesn't make sense. I'll put it like this: it doesn't make sense. The Predator being as smart as he is what it is. That's why it doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't make sense him being as strong or as smart as he supposedly is. Just really doesn't make sense. But what does make sense, I'll say about that whole thing, is the fact that the Predator's weapons are somehow so sharp that they cut through like anything, like the slightest amount of pressure, and they seem like they can just cut through things like butter. That makes perfect sense. You know what I mean? That his arm would be just completely detached like that, just off. You know what I mean? That makes perfect sense. That, that, like, it wouldn't happen, but it makes sense that if he did somehow injure himself or was injured with his own weapon, that makes sense. Like, it would literally annihilate whatever is in its way. That makes sense, actually. Because the sci-fi nature of the weapons in these movies, these Predator movies, which I don't think I'm going to do. I was going to say maybe I might do a video on that again, like me breaking down like how insane and unrealistic and overpowered these Predator weapons are. Like, it's like, Jesus Christ, Predator, you're fucking it's a wonder you didn't cut your own shit off earlier or in another movie, you know, with your fucking crazy ass weapons. So this is the end of a rant. This is a short rant. Like, comment, and sub. This is Steve's Art and Fun channel, and I just thought it would be fun to rant on the Prey movie, and even more fun to just talk about that last scene, because I know, like I said, I know even people that have no training, no knowledge, no skill probably saw that, like probably straight up nerds that play Dungeons and Dragons in their basement that watch sci-fi movies probably watched that shit and probably saw that one part and was like, okay, bro, that was cool as fuck, that looked cool as fuck, but fuck no. They're like, hell no, like, no, that did not just happen. No, that didn't just happen. I mean, that's about as absurd as Wolverine cutting off one of his own arms with his own claws or some shit. You know, it's like, come on now. Wolverine, you've been in so many fights, Wolverine. You have so much experience. You would never... It wouldn't matter if you were pinned to a wall. You would not do that, because you just wouldn't. It wouldn't happen. It's not likely. So, this is the rant. That's the end. And like, comment, and sub, and have a nice day.